Hello, and welcome to the Smart Injury Doctors Podcast, the injury market's top program for doctors, lawyers, and insurers who want to gain greater insight on how to improve patient recovery results and deliver better services in the U.S. injury market. Please welcome your host, Dr. Jeffrey Allen Kronk.
Okay, doctors, today what I want to talk about is barriers to entry. I love barriers to entry. Now, what's a barrier to entry? Well, for me, it's like security. So what do I mean by that? Well, here's what I mean by that. A lot of doctors will want to grow an injury practice. And in growing an injury practice, there's things that they're not willing to do. And because they're not willing to do them, it's a barrier to entry. They simply won't do them, so they won't enter into the area. So if I want to dominate a playground and people will not, let's say the playground is all surrounded by a small little creek, and you have to get wet in order to go into the playground, but nobody, the majority of people are not willing to be wet. They don't want to get wet. So guess what? I can control the playground. I have no problem getting wet. So in the injury space, I know that may sound like a dumb analogy, but in the injury space, there's a lot of things that a lot of doctors are not willing to do, right? A lot of doctors are not willing to sit down and just go, what is my message? What is my concise message? Because the more concise I am with my messaging, the more people understand what I am and can make better consumer choices, whether they're attorneys, medical doctors for referrals, attorneys for referrals, or patients direct. They have to be able to differentiate you from somebody else. If not, why wouldn't I just use somebody else? What is your messaging? So a lot of doctors won't sit down and they won't even start to think with this or get help with this or get involved with groups that help you with this. They simply will not do it. And I love it because I am going to do it and I do have a message. So let me give you another example. Some doctors their barrier to entry is they don't like doing presentations. They don't like going out to attorneys and doing presentations. And presentations can be 10 minutes long, they can be 20 minutes long, they can be 50 minutes long, they could be a couple hours long, depending, you could deliver CLE, continuing legal education. But a lot of doctors simply will not do that. They can see a program, they can have a program, but they simply won't do it. I'm sitting there going, man, I love the fact that they won't do it because they take themselves out of the market. They just simply take themselves out of the market. Here's another thing. A lot of doctors will not communicate to their back end, their patients that they already have. So if you have 1,000 patients in your database, you have 120 injury incidents in that database every year. I'm the chiropractic practice right next to you that basically treats and promotes and really understands my injury marketing. I know you don't market, so guess what? I'm going to market to your patients. I'm going to market to your people. And, I could have a sign. Let's say that your clinic and my clinic were right next to each other, and I noticed you got a busy clinic, and I'm new in town. I just came in new to town, and I've got a big window that faces your clinic. I could put up a sign, not getting results. Come on over. We get to the cause of the condition. Not getting results with your injury care? There's something missing. Give us a call, right? And I could target your people. Now, what I'm saying is that there's a lot of barriers to entry. People will decide, okay, geez, I don't do good in front of people, so therefore I'm not going to stand up and talk about things. Barrier to entry. Hey, I'm not good at organizing my clinic, so we send out routine messages out to our public so that we can capture our public when they get injured and they're not going to somebody else. Barrier to entry. Hey, I can't confront writing articles or putting up blog posts on my computer so that when people are shopping today and they're looking for what am I really about, I don't do that. Barrier to entry. Hey, I don't like paying for marketing service. I can't confront that. Barrier to entry. Could have really good marketing services. Hey, I don't want to pay for coaching. To get coaching in an area that I'm really weak in. Barrier to entry. It's all barriers to entry. And those barriers to entry are the thing that keep you and keep me, actually, when I talk about you, I'm talking about me too, right? I had to overcome a lot of barriers to entry. I totally feared speaking in front of people. I had to do that. I had a hard time, believe it or not, initially in patient consultations because I was nervous. And I didn't like doing them. Patient consultation, how the heck could you be a chiropractor and not do a patient consultation? So I understand overcoming barriers to entry. And if I didn't overcome those barriers, then I'm just taking myself out of the market. Think about the things that you don't like to do right now. Some people don't like to confront associateships, so they can't grow. Barrier to entry. Other people say, hey, I can grow. I can put in 8, 10, 12, 15 clinics. I don't have that barrier to entry, right? So some doctors lose the concept or lose the understanding that, hey, if you're going to take CE and you're going to be in the injury space or the mild traumatic brain injury space, you're going to be in the injury space. Take your CE that's going to do things that are going to make you better in treatment. Confront the fact that you may not be as good as you could be in treatment. Confront if you need a modality that you think is going to improve your success in treatment. Confront that. A lot of people won't. So it keeps them out of the market. So I personally love barriers to entry. And I know, if I'm going to plunk down in an area and start a center, I realize the majority of practices have a barrier to entry. Now, I also realize that there's a lot of marketing practice that will market and talk a lot about a lot of things and try to do things in a way to get patients and may actually be successfully getting patients that I can easily compete with. Because one, I'm going to focus on results. Two, I understand spinal injuries completely. Because we understand them so completely, we're going to get great results with them. We're not going to miss anything with them. We know how they apply to the mild traumatic brain injury. We know they're the largest cause, number one, first, fourth, and sixth leading cause of chronic pain and disability. We know what that is, what the cause of that is, so we know how to start to reverse it in patients that have it. We know what to look for. And because we know those things, guess what? Our documentation is stellar. It's superior. We know what impairments are. We know what surgical levels of soft tissue damage looks like in the spine. We know what facet injuries look like. We know how to image them. We know how to make sure that the injury itself is imaged. We know how to grade the image. We know how to grade the severity of the image. We know if there's a higher probability for further soft tissue damage, such as the disc herniation. We know how to handle all the pre-existing condition problems that come up in these types of cases. We know all of the differences in the different types of pre-existing conditions. We know that every patient that actually has an injury, 100% has a pre-existing condition. And we know that. We're not afraid of it. We understand there's nobody that has an injury that does not have a pre-existing condition. We know that. And so because we know that, we are so freed up in the injury market that we're different. And all we need to do is get in front of people and start communicating. But if you have a barrier to that, an internal barrier, you have a fear, procrastination can be a barrier. I'm a big procrastinator. Good, I love it. Hey, I'm competing with the guy that's going home and watching Netflix for 4 hours a night. Fantastic. What's there to compete with? I'm going to compete with the person that is not comfortable in social settings, being able to engage with people. Great. That's another barrier to entry. I'm going to compete with people that if they get with a neurologist, or they get with an orthopedist, or they get with a medical doctor, they get with a surgeon, they get with a hospital administrator, they don't know what to talk about. Good, barrier to entry. I love that. So with barriers to entry, one, you have to become aware of the fact that you have a barrier. And then once you have it, you can call it whatever you want to. It's an unwillingness to approach an area. And most of the time, once you overcome a barrier to entry, you'll realize it was like unbelievably, like there was really no barrier there at all. It was only in your head. It was only in your head. Now, the thing that barriers of entry do also is they keep you from treating the amount of people that you could treat. Right? So just take a simple thing like, hey, if I ever really sat down and I haven't decided what my messaging is, that's a barrier to entry. Instead, I got all over the place messaging. All over the place messaging could be, hey, I'm a wellness center. Okay, that's fine, but most people aren't shopping for wellness. So it's a confusing message. Now, it's nice in your mind and you think everybody should be on wellness, but it's a confusing message to people that are not shopping for wellness. I mean, if I'm not shopping for Steelies are little ball bearings, little balls, we used to use in marbles to play marbles with. If I'm not shopping for Steelies, what do I care that somebody's promoting Steelies? It's going right over my head. So not having a message, a very tight, consistent message to the market that you're going to is another barrier to entrance. Not aligning yourself with people that can make a difference in your life is a barrier to entry. Not paying to get in the right rooms, right? Sometimes you have to pay to get in the right rooms, right? So I don't know if you've ever heard, but you're one handshake away from a major change in your life. You just don't know whose hand it is. Everything you want is in somebody else's hand. But are you willing to shake them? Are you willing to shake that hand? Are you willing to put yourself in a position to get that break? Sometimes you have to pay to get into the room. What does that mean? You got an event you're going to. Good, so somebody wants you to be a speaker. All right, maybe you have to pay to speak there. Okay, so you're paying to get in the room. Maybe they have a fee. Maybe it's, hey, if I go out, I know that all of my personal injury attorneys golf at the same golf course. Tons of personal injury attorneys golf at this golf course. Okay, good. I don't even golf. And it's $5,000 a year to be a member of this golf course, but they do have a swimming pool and they have nice meals and I can go get, so I have so many meals that I can do, or let's say it's $10,000 for that golf club. Good, I'm gonna do that and I'm gonna become a member of it. I'm gonna pay to get in the room, to get in the space where these other people are. Because that's how relationships develop. So if you don't think about that, or you would never do that, good. I'm the one that's in there with the personal injury attorneys. I'm glad you will never do that because it's a barrier to entry. So all I want you to do today is just kind of think about barriers to entry. What barriers of entry do you have and what help do you need with them? For me, I enjoy helping doctors get through this. I see it every day in our program called Smart Injury Doctors Program. You want to check us out, go to www.smartinjurydoctors.com. If you want to set up a time with me to look at the program, just call 800-940-6513 or email me at drkronk@smartinjurydoctors.com. Doctors, I think that the doctors that are the best doctors in the injury space today should be the highest paid doctors today. Your clinic should be full. So don't let some barrier that you have keep you from fulfilling that if that is your desire. Doctors, as always, short, sweet, to the point. I hope you got something from this, and I look forward to delivering more content on the next podcast.
You've been listening to the Smart Injury Doctors Podcast, the #1 audio production show for professionals in the U.S. injury market that want to deliver better injury services to the patients, clients, or insureds they serve. If you like what you heard today, please leave us a review and don't forget to join us on our next program.